Dear viewers, I welcome you back to my channel, YouTube channel, The World of Least Explored Phenomena. This channel was started by me to appraise the viewers about the phenomena which are least explored, and the first in line was parapsychology. Psychology, we all know. Psychology is the study of human behavior when perception is through the known five senses. The five senses, known five senses are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching or feeling. When the perception is through these five senses, the behavior, human behavior, is studied under psychology. But do you know that perception can happen even without using these five senses? What else is telepathy? Telepathy is mind to mind connection where perception is not through any of five senses. Seeing through mind's eyes is clairvoyance, where people are able to see things through their mind's eyes. They can see what is happening miles away and perceive the happenings there. That is only through mind's eyes. Precognition is another mind seeing the future. Psychokinesis deals in mind influencing the matter. Life after death is also studied under parapsychology. Parapsychology studies all these strange phenomena, and all these phenomena are least explored. In the first series of episodes, we talked about parapsychology in detail. We understood these phenomena, we understood what research has been done in these fields and what remains to be done. And we have looked into what could be the way forward for future research. We had also gone on a journey of fantasy where we assumed that science has so advanced that humans have acquired the paranormal parapsychological capabilities, and they are also scientifically knowing what happens after we die, how the world will look like then. The scenario is very amusing and interesting. So if you have missed those videos, please do go to my YouTube channel and watch them. You will really enjoy them. Having talked about paranormal happenings, we have gone on to a new series which is taken from our day to day life, that is workplace management. As young students, we come out of the colleges well equipped with knowledge with that we apply at our workplace. But how do we excel at workplace? Workplace poses many challenges to all of us when we enter into work life and get acclimatized there. There are so many challenges in the workplace that it is just like a small infant thrown into troubled waters and is asked to swim. There are no anchors, there are no guides available, and you have to swim of your own. You have to look into the various challenges which come face to face with you, and you have to find your own solutions. I, for one, had gone all through those challenges in 45 years of my professional experience, 25 years of which has been at top of the organization, that is at GM level. I thought of creating this series of videos to provide help to young entrepreneurs or young college students who are just coming out of the college and entering into the workplace. I give them enough material which will provide them an anchor to face the challenges. The workplace is a place where people are ruthlessly going in for climbing the career ladders. And in that process, people who are not able to face the workplace challenges lag behind. You must not be one of them if you pick up the clues and cues from this series of lectures. I've already conducted two episodes which you can watch them on my YouTube channel, that is the World of Least Explored Phenomena Workplace Management. We had seen in previous episodes the contents of my workplace management series is transformational stages in one's life where we learn about what is going to come in our future life. We have learning transformational stages in life, and we talked about that in our previous video. We also talked about what does the workplace mean and what are the types of workplaces where we work in. And now we are at the third topic, which is managing people at workplace. We had also learned few principles in my last episode where we have been talking about 10 principles of managing people. Managing people is really a difficult task, and one has to use lot of efforts to effectively manage people. We had talked about principles of managing people, and this people management is a vast topic and it could not be covered in one episode, so we have been covering it in a series of episodes. In first, in the last episode, we talked about three principles of managing people at workplace. Namely, if you are a good leader and if you are going to be successful in managing people, you have to lead by example. You have to do what you preach. Gandhi ji preached ahimsa and he stuck to ahimsa. He practiced ahimsa. Second is that you have to be critically observant. You will be one man up only if your observation power is very strong. And once you are able to observe very strongly, minutely, and critically, you will be able to take decisions which will be very, very crucial for the organization. We talked in detail about effective communication. In fact, the last episode was solely devoted to effective communication. Communication is very vital because a poor communication may lead to destructive results. If you have to be successful, you have to communicate very effectively. In this particular episode, we are going to talk about three things. That is, one is good listening capability. Then we'll be taking up a leader should have firm courage of conviction. And thirdly, we'll see how the ability to protect their people helps the leader to lead the team very successfully. So let us go on to the first principle which we are talking is the good listening capability. What does listening mean? Listening is different from hearing. Hearing is half-hearted listening. Listening is when you are fully engrossed in the topic which a speaker is speaking about. You are with the speaker. Good listening. Why is listening important? In a lighter vein, I can say that God has given us 2 ears, but has given only one tongue. Why so? कम बोलो, ज़्यादा सुनो. Talk less, listen more. That's why the God has given us 2 ears, but one tongue. What active listening is about being present in the conversation and focusing on what the person is saying. It is a conscious effort to understand the speaker's entire message. Good listeners encourage speakers through nonverbal gestures such as nods, eye contact, and simple utterances. The flow of speaker is not interrupted if you do not interject questions when he is speaking. You must keep your questions till the for the end when the speaker has stopped. Otherwise, it disrupts his continuity of thoughts and he is not able to deliver his best. You must resist the impulse to interject with comments or questions when he is talking. Focus on what the person is saying and not on how we intend to respond once he stops talking. Most of us are inclined to take this step that in our mind we start organizing our thoughts as to how we will respond, and that reduces our listening capability and we are not able to assimilate the full meaning of what he is saying. Listening is very important. It is giving so many good aspects of leading the people. It builds trust and strong relationship with the speaker if you are an active listener. It helps to resolve conflicts. I'll talk about this later in my talk, how a good listener can enthuse to successfully resolve the conflict. It prevents you from missing important information and you boost your observation power. You are one man up because you are able to assimilate the things fully where others may not be able to do so. It enables you to identify and anticipate problems so you are ready to face them. It helps to build knowledge. If the speaker is talking on a subject which is not known to you, you gather knowledge if you are listening very actively and fully engrossed with the speaker. Listening to someone else's opinion is often the best method of getting them around to your way of thinking. It is very important that we listen and listen actively. Active listening skills involve taking nonverbal clues, listening to understand, avoiding interruptions, don't getting distracted, withhold judgment. You must not form a judgment when the speaker is halfway through. He may be saying many things which may change your judgment. You prepare deeper questions that you will be able to do once you are with the speaker fully engrossed. Slow down and patient silence. All these aspects are covered in this beautiful video which I'm going to share with you. Please listen.
We're going to talk about active listening skills. So let's get into the details. Hey there, I'm Alex Lyon, and I actually have a 1-hour course on effective listening skills for leaders. I will tell you more about that at the end of the video. So listening is so important because good listening is probably the easiest way to connect with other people and build relationships. Active listening is the opposite of passive listening, and you have probably experienced this. The person you're talking to might technically be hearing some of what you're saying, but they are tuned out, they're on autopilot, they're just not mentally engaged with what you're saying. And as the speaker, this can be very dissatisfying, very discouraging when people really aren't paying attention to us. Like, why am I even talking in the first place? But active listening looks, sounds, and feels obvious. Active listening means listening completely. But before anybody does that well, there are two secrets, two prerequisites to active listening. Number one, you have to commit. You have to put aside whatever else might be distracting you and make listening a real priority. Good listening is first and foremost a choice that you make every time somebody speaks. Number two, it takes practice. Like any skill, you have to work at it. The good news is that listening is not mysterious or complicated. So let's talk about 4 qualities of active listening that you can put into practice. First, active listening involves nonverbal communication. And there are 2 sides to this. On the one hand, you're demonstrating that you're engaged in paying attention nonverbally. You put your devices completely away, you make eye contact, your body posture is open and oriented toward the other person. Now, on the other side, you're also noticing the speaker's nonverbal cues. There's an expression, you listen with your eyes. And part of that means you're noticing what's happening with the person visually on their mood or their emotion that they're showing. Do they look nervous, frustrated, annoyed? You can pick up on that by actively observing their nonverbal communication. Second, active listening involves verbal communication. Again, there are 2 sides to this. The most obvious part is asking good questions. Probably the most common pattern that good listeners demonstrate is that they ask a good question and then they let the speaker fully answer it. Like a good mental health therapist will ask thoughtful questions and then stop talking for a while and let the client speak. Honestly, what we're paying for in many cases is just somebody to listen carefully to us. So a good question is a huge part of the listening pie. And the other part of verbal communication is those small utterances that show the other person that we're following them, like, I hear you, yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes it's not even full words. It might just be, oh. Those little utterances keep us engaged and show the other person that we're following. Third, active listening involves responding to what somebody just said. So the pattern goes like this. You ask a question, they respond for however long that takes, and at the end of that talking term, you give an informed response to them. So let's say you just ask a person what they've been up to lately. That's your question. And in their talking turn, they tell you that they have been doing diving lately. So you actively listen for a while they're talking. And at the end of their talking turn, it's your turn again. And this is where you show that you were actively following along and were interested in what they were saying. And you can do this by reflecting back what you just heard. You might say something like, wow, that sounds like an exciting sport. That's really cool that you're doing that. Or you could ask another follow-up question. I had no idea that you were into diving. How did you first get into that? Of course, you could do a little bit of both, like I just did. You could make an informed, reflective statement and then ask a follow-up question. The key is to respond to what they have just been saying. What you don't want to do is just look at them blankly and not react when they're done talking. And you've probably had somebody do this to you. You tell them about part of your day or something about your life, and they don't react. They just have this stone face. That's not active listening. It's your turn again, and this is where you show that you were actively following along and were interested in what they were saying. And you can do this by reflecting back what you just heard. You might say something like, wow, that sounds like an exciting sport. That's really cool that you're doing that. Or you could ask another follow-up question. I had no idea that you were into diving. How did you first get into that? Of course, you could do a little bit of both, like I just did. You could make an informed, reflective statement and then ask a follow-up question. The key is to respond to what they have just been saying. What you don't want to do is just look at them blankly and not react when they're done talking. And you've probably had somebody do this to you. You tell them about part of your day or something about your life, and they don't react. They just have this stone face. That's not active listening. If you want a gold star for active listening, then you have to respond to what they just said. Fourth, keep the focus on them and let them talk. Now, this one might seem obvious because you're listening, but when you decide to go into that listening mode, just make a decision that this is going to be all about the other person talking and not about you. Resist that temptation to jump in with your own story or to change the subject to your favorite topic. Keep your talking turns and questions concise, and then stick to whatever topic they're interested in. Now, eventually, once they've done plenty of talking, there will usually be an opportunity later in the conversation for you to share your experiences. But my rule of thumb is to dedicate at least the first half of the conversation to pure active listening. So I hope these 4 tips help you listen completely in your next conversation. Question of the day: which one of these tips do you need the most work on? I would
So, all the aspects which I talked on active listening are covered in this good video. I hope it makes amply clear what is the importance of active listening and how do you become an active listener and guide your people through the knowledge which you gain. I was talking about good listening helps in the conflict resolving, and I talked about my own case. I just give you a brief glimpse of the good listening, how it affected conflict resolution in my case. While in professional life, there was a time when I was looking after 6 companies of the group simultaneously as GM operations. The companies were locally situated in Gujarat, 3 of them, and 3 were outside Gujarat, Himachal as well as in Uttarakhand. And I was managing all these companies very well. The companies were progressing well, and our group was progressing profitably. This group had not only these 6 companies, they had many more. Our group, called the Clear MyPack Group, I was leading the factory operations, and the company appointed one vice president manufacturing to whom I started reporting. I was very happy and I was full of vigor, strength, and going full stream in managing those 6 factories. Then came the blow. Suddenly, one day, my MD phoned me and told me that henceforth I should concentrate more, rather only on the 3 local companies, and the remaining 3 outside companies will be looked after by the vice president directly. This was a real blow, and I was shattered. This was the conflict which arose just by this telephone call from my MD. What has gone wrong? मैंने क्या गलत किया? सब कुछ तो अच्छा चल रहा है. फिर कंपनी को क्या जरूरत पड़ी कि उन्होंने एक वाइस प्रेसिडेंट हायर कर लिया और मेरी कुछ कंपनियां वाइस प्रेसिडेंट को दे दी. क्या मैं ठीक से काम नहीं कर रहा हूँ? Am I not giving my best? I was really frustrated. I sought appointment with my MD to talk the things out. thoroughly. He, being very busy person, could not give me immediate appointment, and my anger and frustration went on rising, and I was boiling with frustration and anger. Finally, my MD called me to HO at Bombay. I was in Gujarat, and on that day, I reached him. After I reached him, he made me sit in the conference room, and after some time, he came to talk to me, and we were only two people in that conference room. He was all smiles and greeted me as if nothing had happened. He sort of started praising me, and his praise appeared to be very genuine. And he praised me for accepting his decision with dignity. I broke down because it was a blow on my dignity. How could I accept this decision with dignity? I wept thoroughly, and told him that when I was doing so good work, then why this insult of shortening my span of control? He listened to my outburst, gave me a glass of water, patted on my shoulder, and prompted me to speak out my heart. I kept on talking continuously for over half an hour and found him genuinely concerned and listening to me with due consideration without taking his eyes away from me. He was keeping a direct eye contact with me and was encouraging me to talk my heart out. He was looking at me. He was not staring. He was just looking at me with anxiety and genuine concern on his face. He did not make a single comment or defended his action. He only prompted me to go on speaking. Every word spoken by me was touching him and was registered in his mind. I could gaze this from reading his gestures and body language. After busting out my sentiments and finding him listening intently and showing genuine concern, I became calm. I was composed. I was in the right frame of my mind to listen to the logic, understand the logic, and appreciate it without any bias before he even started speaking. He spoke his side of story, which I will take up when will be discussing about the conflict at workplace, and you will surely like it. The episode which I just narrated shows me, guided me, and brings to you a fact that patient listening had brought me in right frame of mind, which helped my MD to resolve our conflict amicably. So if you are actively listening, again I say, half the battle is over. So active listening is very important, and we must all Be patient listeners, be active listeners, and that's how you build strength in your team. You win the trust of your people and confidence of your people who will follow you admirably, and your work will be done and you will excel in the workplace management. Next in line, we will be discussing about the principle of managing people, that is courage of conviction. As a leader, you should believe, you should believe in yourself. However hard the situation is and you are dealing it, unless you have the courage of conviction, you will not be overcoming the obstacles. Courage of conviction is what? Courage of conviction is to have the confidence to act or behave in accordance with one's belief or ideology, especially in the face of resistance, criticism, or persecution. There have been great leaders who had great courage of conviction. Gandhiji, for one. Galileo stood by his courage of conviction when he went against the religion which maintained that sun revolves around the earth. Galileo had courage of conviction to say, no, it is the other way around. It took a lot of courage to go against the religion. Courage of conviction is a very important virtue for a leader to have. You must stand up for what you believe in, even it means standing alone. Have the courage of conviction once you have made a decision. You must have the courage to speak out for your decision, how why it is important, and go ahead for implementing that decision. Courage of conviction means having the confidence and fortitude to make a decision when there is no obvious right or wrong answer. Your inner voice gives you the courage of conviction in such situations. It means doing what is best for the company, even if the decision will make people unhappy. It means sticking to your stated values, even if that comes at a cost to your standing at your company because you refuse to go along with the plan that you felt was wrong. The strength to act on something that you believe in, even if it means people might not agree with it. Followers get motivated when your leadership is reflected through courage of conviction. Very, very important virtue a leader must have. To make the things amply clear, I invite you to listen to this video, which will make the things more clear.
Hello everyone, my name is Piyush Kumar and today we are going to discuss another important term on ethics syllabus, that is courage of conviction. क्या है courage of conviction? It is the courage to do what one believes is right. जो आपको सही लगता है, जिसमें आपका conviction है कि ये सही है और आप उसको करते हैं despite when no other people may agree or approve, despite facing opposition, despite बाकी लोग आपसे सहमत हैं या नहीं हैं, इसके बजाय आपको जो सही लगता है आप उसको करते हैं, आप ये साहस दिखाते हैं कि अपनी बात को फॉलो करें. So this is the courage of conviction. क्या एग्जांपल हम देख सकते हैं? इन द स्पोर्ट्स वी हैव द एग्जांपल ऑफ एमएस धोनी. एमएस धोनी को जब ओडीआई का कैप्टन बनाया गया 2008 में, ही हैड दिस विजन कि उनकी टीम में जो फील्डर्स हैं वो चुस्त होने चाहिए, थोड़े एक्टिव फील्डर्स होने चाहिए, एंड ही बिलीव दैट सर्टेन स्टार प्लेयर्स वर नॉट दैट ग्रेट फील्डर्स, सो ही वेंट अहेड विद द प्रोसेस, जिसमें इन प्लेयर्स को रिप्लेस किया गया और यंग टैलेंट्स को मौका दिया गया, एंड रिजल्ट हमको पता है, 2011 का वर्ल्ड कप इन्होंने जीता देश के लिए। सो ही हैड दिस फेथ, दे वर स्टार प्लेयर्स, and still he went ahead with the process of having young and fresh talent into his team. Similarly, we have the example of Mahatma Gandhi ji. Mahatma Gandhi ji showed immense courage of conviction. उनका conviction था कि कोई भी mass movement non violent होना चाहिए, because otherwise British empire will crash and so forth. But चौरी चौरा incident के बाद he decided to withdraw non cooperation movement. ये courage of conviction का example इसलिए है because at that point of time many young leaders including the Jawaharlal Nehru and so forth were up against it. वो नहीं चाहते थे कि मूवमेंट बंद हो, वो चाहते थे कि मूवमेंट चलता रहे, पर गांधी जी को कन्विक्शन था कि नहीं, नॉन वायलेंट मूवमेंट से ही आजादी मिलेगी, नॉन वायलेंट मूवमेंट से ही ट्रू मास मूवमेंट क्रिएट किया जा सकता है। And look, he was right, and India got independence because of his continuous non-violent movement in 1947. So that shows courage of conviction. In administration, courage of conviction is very important. क्यों important है? We will see the examples from the examples. The example of T.N. Session. He was former chief election commissioner. He had this immense conviction कि जो फोटो आईडी कार्ड, जो इलेक्टोरल कार्ड्स हैं, दे शुड हैव फोटो, ठीक है, इलेक्टोरल फोटो आइडेंटिटी कार्ड में उनका कन्विक्शन था, एंड दैट फोटो आइडेंटिटी कार्ड विल हेल्प इन रिमूविंग वेरियस माल प्रैक्टिसेस, काफी बोगस कार्ड को या बोगस वोट्स को एलिमिनेट किया जाएगा, एंड ही वेंट अहेड विद द इंप्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ दिस एपिक प्रोजेक्ट डिस्पाइट फेसिंग सीवियर पॉलिटिकल अपोजिशन, सो दैट शोज हिज इमेंस करेज ऑफ कन्विक्शन। अनदर एग्जांपल वी हैव फ्रॉम सत्येंद्र दुबे। सत्येंद्र दुबे ब्लू द व्हिसल्स इन द एनएचआई स्कैम। क्यों? क्योंकि ही हैड द कन्विक्शन दैट अभी जो हो रहा है ये गलत हो रहा है, एंड इट इज लीडिंग टू ह्यूज लॉस ऑफ मनी टू द पब्लिक एक्सचेकर, काफी जनता के पैसे का नुकसान हो रहा है, भ्रष्टाचार हो रहा है, और ये इतना कन्विक्शन था कि डिस्पाइट फेसिंग डेथ थ्रेट्स, अपनी जान की परवाह किए बिना, हमलों की परवाह किए बिना, ही वेंट अहेड विद द व्हिसल ब्लोइंग, एंड उसका परिणाम ही गॉट किल्ड, अनफॉर्चुनेटली ही गॉट किल्ड। बट ये क्या दिखाता है? ये दिखाता है कि ही हैड सम करेज ऑफ कन्विक्शन, ही बिलीव कि ये गलत हो रहा है और सही इसको ऐसे किया जा सकता है, एंड he went ahead with that decision, so that shows courage of conviction. In fact, most whistleblower have courage of conviction, most rationalists have courage of conviction. This is another example, collector bro, okay, Prashant Nair. He was the collector of Kozhikode in Kerala, and he implemented various projects under the project name of compassionate Kozhikode, ठीक है। करेज ऑफ कन्विक्शन कैसे दिखता है? ही हैड दिस विजन कि कोई भूखा ना सोए, ठीक है, कोई भूखा नहीं सोना चाहिए, टू इंप्लीमेंट दैट ही स्टार्टेड ऑपरेशन सुलेमानी, ठीक है, एंड ऑपरेशन सुलेमानी में इन्होंने क्या किया? ही डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड वेरियस कूपन्स, फूड कूपन्स इन्होंने डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किए पूरे डिस्ट्रिक्ट में, और जो भी हंगरी लोग थे, जो भी अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकते थे, दे कैन जस्ट गेट दोज कूपन्स एंड हैव फूड एट द वेरियस पार्टनर होटल्स एंड रेस्टोरेंट्स। क्या हुआ? ठीक है, हंगर कम हुआ, ठीक है, लोगों को खाना मिलने लगा। सो दिस शोज करेज ऑफ कन्विक्शन बिकॉज प्रशांत नायर बिलीव दैट दिस इज द वे इन विच मेनी पीपल कैन बी सेव्ड फ्रॉम स्लीपिंग एम्प्टी स्टोमक। सो ये करेज ऑफ कन्विक्शन दिखाता है। इनफैक्ट कोई भी इनिशिएटिव आप लेते हैं उसको तभी इंप्लीमेंट करवाओगे जब आप में करेज ऑफ कन्विक्शन हो। अनदर एग्जांपल वी हैव फ्रॉम अशोक खेमका। अशोक खेमका बिलीव कि ये जो हो रहा है गलत हो रहा है, ठीक है, he had his own moral compass, rightness and wrongness that was not favored by the ruling political dispensation, and because of that he faced more than 50 transfer in his entire career। आप इमेजिन कर सकते हैं कितना मेंटल हरासमेंट होगा, बच्चों की पढ़ाई खराब होती है, ठीक है, फैमिली से आपको दूर रहना पड़ता है, बार बार ट्रांसफर होता है, कोई जॉब आप ढंग से नहीं कर पाते हैं अगर इतने ज्यादा ट्रांसफर होते हैं तो। स्टिल दैट, उसके अलावा, इतना मेंटल हरासमेंट के अलावा, ही कंटिन्यू टू डू सो इन व्हाट ही बिलीव्स ही इज राइट और रॉन्ग। ये उनका करेज ऑफ कन्विक्शन दिखाता है। सो आई होप आपको करेज ऑफ कन्विक्शन का मीनिंग समझ में आया। हेलो एवरीवन, माय नेम इज
Courage of conviction is very important, as you saw in this video. He gave real life examples which showed that people stood by what they believed even in the face of adverse situations. It is very important to have a courage of conviction because it makes you an effective leader, and an effective leader has to have this important virtue. This is a strength rarely found in people. People tend to compromise their values in order to toe the populist line. There are very few people who go against the stream. Mass following happens only with courage of conviction. Gandhiji is an example. How does it come to you? This courage of conviction, how does it come? It comes if you listen to your inner voice and act in a persistent manner. If you believe in yourself, the courage of conviction just surfaces. I'll again give you a live example from my professional life. In the initial stages of my professional career, I was a group manager managing some departments of a glass factory. The labor was very, very militant, and they were militant to the extent that they were doing unreasonable, illogical activities. And management could do nothing because the managerial team was had succumbed to the pressure, and none of them, none of us could come out and stand against the bullying done by these militant leaders. There were instances when a manager was beaten because he tried to bring some discipline in the working, but he refused to come out and register a complaint to the management so that management could take some stern action against the miscreants and go against the union. Every day there were slogan shoutings, work slow, and all the tactics were being used by militant people to terrify the management, and management was just looking helplessly and doing nothing. One day, while coming to the factory, I got a lift from my labor officer who was driving a scooter. I just sat back, and when we came to the gate, we found president of the union and other union leaders along with a mob of over 50 people blocking the gate and shouting slogans. Our scooter stopped, and some miscreants started to topple down the scooter by lifting it from the back. And in that process, one of the workers hit me at the back with his slippers. I was wearing a sweater, and there was an imprint of his shoe on my sweater. After lot of mishandling, they gave us away and we entered into the factory. I had the courage of conviction that this is not done. ये ठीक नहीं है और इसको अंत तक पहुंचाना पड़ेगा. This is not correct. How can they mishandle a manager? I went to the vice president's cabin, showed him the imprint of a shoe on my back without any provocation from my side, told him that union president was present there, and he did not make an attempt to stop all these malpractices. Vice President looked at me. He looked at me with admiration and just said, "Will you stand by what you said? I'm going to take action." I said, "I have the courage of conviction that this thing should not go unnoticed and a due justice should be done." Vice the President of the Union was going to come in the night shift. Once he came in the night shift, he was given a suspension letter by the management. And immediately there was news spread like wildfire. All the workers got agitated. They came out from the machines, left the machines unattended. Glass, as you know, is molten at very high temperatures and it has to be managed and manipulated to form the wares by machines. If you leave the machine unattended, the glass keeps on flowing from the furnace, and this molten glass, if accumulated for longer period on the machine, will give rise to fire and all things will be destroyed. But the workers left their places, left the machine unattended, and there was a fire hazard in the factory. The workers broke all the glass which was produced. They threw the glass on the roads and blocked all the passages. Somehow, the supervisory staff which was present and the engineers which were present stopped the furnace and stopped the flow of molten glass, which already had accumulated to a great extent under the machines. The agitated group of workers, under the leadership of their president, came to know that the suspension was because of a complaint raised by me. You can understand the fury of the mass which would have been against me. We were living in the adjoining colony, glass colony, which was just adjacent to the factory. At midnight, a band of 400 to 500 workers, led by their president, were marching to my house, beating drums and shouting slogans to annihilate me, to kill me, who has tried to stand against their president. They came to my residence and started banging the door, asking me to open it. I was trying to, I was going to open the door when my wife stopped and she said that mass will not listen to reason. Why you are going to talk to them? They will kill you. My little daughter was greatly afraid. Later on, she could not sleep for some nights because she used to get this dream of these people attacking our house. Some people opened the window of my house and started pelting stones, which broke my TV and other furnitures. And this continued for about 5 minutes. And in that moment of terror, I saw my death. Somehow, at the end of 5 minutes, the police came because our security manager must have phoned to the police seeing this outburst. And management was ready actually. to face this eventuality. Somehow they came and the crowd got dispersed and I was saved. I think in that situation, if I had not the courage of conviction, I would not have stood my ground. The case went to court and my management asked me whether I will testify. I said I will. This was even after an incident which I want to narrate to you. The colony gate was closed and the workers could not enter, but they were sitting outside the gate on the main road doing their dharna and going for strike. My son, who was studying in school, maybe in the third or fourth standard, was boarding the bus from the factory, from the gate of the colony, and my wife used to always take him and bring him back. One day, while she was waiting at the bus stand, she heard the laborers, the workers discussing amongst themselves. They were saying, "अरे ये कुमार साहब की वाइफ है, क्यों ना कुमार साहब के बच्चे को उठा लिया जाए, मैनेजमेंट को बड़ा मजा चखाएंगे, उनके बच्चे को उठा लेते हैं." My wife was trembling with fear. She deposited my son into the bus. My son boarded the bus and went away to school. She came and narrated the incident to me. I told her, don't be afraid. अगर उनको उठाना होता तो उन्होंने उठा लिया होता. वो बोलते थोड़े ही, वो सिर्फ तुमको डरा रहे हैं, डरो मत, हम कुछ गलत नहीं कर रहे हैं. Such was my courage of conviction. The case went to court and I did testify. There was always a threat to my life, but I stood with what I believed, and this courage of conviction made me a great leader in my office, in my factory. So, a leader must have a courage of conviction. In our working life, when your courage of conviction is put to test, and one has to decide whether to stand with conviction or compromise it, a true leader is one who stands by his conscience, by his courage of conviction. His conscience remains clear even if he has to face stiff opposition from different quarters, as was the case with me. Another virtue a good leader must have for managing his people is protecting your people. As a leader, it is your duty to protect your people. It is your duty to protect a people whether you are a political leader or a manager at a workplace. Why does a leader has to protect his people? Leader has to protect his people to win trust and create an effective dedicated team, to make them staunch followers so that your work is done effectively, and to motivate them to give their best for achieving organizational goals. People feel protected when their manager praises publicly and admonishes, corrects them privately. I follow this principle throughout my working career. I admired my people for their good work very lavishly and in public, but never reprimanded them in public. We have to make sure they have the resources and training they need to get the work done. This is the protection you give. to support and stand up for them when they are challenged psychologically or physically by others, including senior bosses. Leader must show confidence in them till established guilty, even when complaints are made against them. Develop them in the areas where they show signs of needing improvement. Leader looks ahead and sees promise in them and coaches and develops them even before they realize that they have the skills. Leader looks for ways to recognize and celebrate their contribution to the business and make them feel genuinely important. Leader must provide valuable motivation and align them to company's goals. Now, there is a small video which you will see which explains this concern about protecting your own people.
As a leader, you must protect your employees at all costs, right? While people are adults and they can generally take care of themselves, it is your responsibility, it's one of your many responsibilities as a leader, not to allow anyone, whether they're part of your team or come from a different team within your organization or outside the organization. You should never allow for anyone to attack, scream, yell, and insult your staff and your employees. No matter who they are, more importantly, no matter who they may think they are and what they do and who they know. None of them matters. People's safety and comfort is essential at work. You want them to be productive, valuable, you want them to come back tomorrow, they have to feel safe. They have to feel appreciated. And you as a leader cannot allow for anyone to go off on your employees, especially without a reason. Whatever's going on their end, it's for them to sort out. But if you are made aware of an instance when someone was screaming and yelling, maybe at times even being vulgar to your employees, you must step in, you must get involved, no matter who that other person is. And you can do it in several different ways. I would approach that individual directly, politely, professionally, and courteously, but let him or her know that that ends today, number one. Number two, I would find out who their boss is, or their boss's boss, and make them aware of what just happened, because you cannot allow anyone ever, for any reason, to mistreat your employees and your staff, your team members. That is not acceptable. That is not allowed. Same way I said a while ago, no bad apples allowed internally where they spoil everybody else on the team. Even more important, people from the outside of your team are not allowed to come in and treat your grown adult people as, babies or 2-year-olds, and poorly behaved 2-year-olds at that. So you have to get involved one way or another, and never, ever, ever stand by when someone on your team is being mistreated in any way, shape, or form. You must act, you must step up, get it addressed, and end that. As a
See, this video is putting very bluntly the aspect that your people should be protected if you are going to be a good leader. There comes times when you have to have courage of conviction, and you will be accepted as good leader when such a situation arises where your people need your protection and you rise to the occasion. I give you the example of my own working life. The same factory, labor was very militant and they were resorting to work slow and greatly damaging the company. In that company, had joined as a quality control officer, then became manager's quality, and subsequently on pursuing a diploma in materials management after office hours, I was given additional charge of stores. In the stores, among various functions, there was material shifting from the shop floor to the godowns where the things were getting stacked. I had my While going on rounds, I found that the company workers who were engaged in material shifting by hand-driven lorries were not doing their work efficiently. They were working slow. They used to leave the work and take rest. Their main purpose was to leave uh, a lot of material still lying on the floor when the shift is over, so that they can be put on overtime and they can clear that backlog in the overtime. They wanted overtime, so they were doing work slow and they were being protected by the union leaders. When I realized this, I told my officer to convey to them that they will not get overtime if work is not speeded during the shift. They must clear the shift during their working hours. But they did not listen to him. So then I decided that I will not put them on overtime after the office hours, but I will employ contract labor for clearing the backlog during the shift hours. Overtime, as you know, people get double the pay, and contract labor is very cheap, and the same work I could get done and eliminated this backlog in very short time. This came this made workers very agitated, and when their OT was stopped, they naturally were very agitated, and having the support of militant leaders, they revolted. They revolted to the extent that they rushed to beat my officer who was in his office. My officer somehow ran from his office and came to my cabin and hid under my table. I was perplexed, I was surprised to see this action of him, but I saw him trembling with fear. And soon thereafter, I found mob of workers who came to my cabin and stood outside my cabin. Somehow I got the courage and I stood at my cabin gate and faced them. Workers somehow had some respect for me. They told me, कुमार साहब आप हट जाइए, हम आपको हाथ नहीं लगाना चाहते, लेकिन आज हम उस ऑफिसर को नहीं छोड़ेंगे. आप बीच में से हट जाइए, ये हमारी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है, क्योंकि हम आपको हाथ नहीं लगाना चाहते. मैंने उनको कहा कि अगर आपको मेरे ऑफिसर को मारना है तो पहले आपको मुझे पीट कर हटाना पड़ेगा. उसके बाद ही मैं जब आप उसको नहीं बचा पाऊंगा तभी आप मेरे केबिन में जा पाएंगे. आइए मुझे मारिए. ये बातचीत काफी देर तक चलती रही. समहाउ मेरा नसीब अच्छा था, या मेरे करेज ऑफ कन्विक्शन को देखकर उन लोगों में इतनी हिम्मत नहीं हुई कि मेरे पर हाथ उठा सकें. हालांकि उन्होंने काफ़ी मैनेजर्स को पीटा था, उन्होंने मुझे हाथ नहीं लगाया और कुछ देर के बाद वे लोग वहाँ से चले गए. यू कैन इमेजिन द फीलिंग्स ऑफ माई ऑफिसर when he was saved by me. As a leader, we have to protect our people. There is no doubt about it. Then only you get the following, which I got from my staff, my colleagues in the organization. We must be we must have courage of conviction as a good leader, and we must protect our people. So in these videos, this is what I had to say. We have already covered many aspects, which I again repeat. We have covered leading by example, do what you preach, be critically observant, be have effective communication, you must listen, you must be an active listener, good listening capability you must possess. Principle of managing people is having courage of conviction and protecting your people. In the coming episodes, we'll be talking about how to motivate people, how to resolve conflicts, how to be fair and consistent in dealing with people. A leader must possess integrity. And the most golden principle of managing people is respect, self respect of others. That is, you must treat others as you wish to be treated in a situation. In the coming videos, we'll be talking about all these remaining principles of management, managing people, and then take up the other aspects of workplace management. If you have liked whatever I have been telling in this series of episodes, and if you want to expand your knowledge further, you can read my book. Further reading can be done using my book, which is selling on Amazon and Flipkart. Please do buy this book and read it, and wait for my next episodes, which will be coming to you shortly. Thank you. Thank you all for listening to me patiently.